All right, y'all, this is part one of the IRS Form 56. I'm doing this video as it relates to a particular form of status correction. Like I stated in many of my videos, there are different areas and different forms and different levels of status correction, depending on what we're dealing with and who we're conducting business with, or who we are individually contracted to. You know, we have many contracts with different private organizations, the IRS being one. So this form can be used in this particular matter as far as correcting our status with the IRS when dealing with the IRS. Now, the IRS Form 56 is the vehicle by which you indicate to the IRS the status of any fiduciary relationships that you may be involved in. You can use this form to terminate fiduciary relationships. Your straw man is what we call your statutory interface to the commercial world. This is your statutory interface to the commercial world because it follows you everywhere you go. Every time you sign up and apply for some stuff, they need that number. That number is your personal tracking device in commerce. They know every time you open up a new bank account, when you go to school, when you're applying for that financial aid, when you get that job, etc., etc. Now, you could not abandon your straw man completely. If you do that, you may starve to death. However, if you gift the liabilities of the straw man without gifting the benefits or privileges, you can outsmart the system. If you completely abandon your straw man, you will not be able to function within the commercial world. You cannot, therefore, completely abandon your straw man because you may starve to death. That being said, if you don't have a fully functional EIN number that's attached to that's operating up under a fully functional corporation that's able to operate on its own without getting validation or co-signed by the straw man's social security number. Now, once you establish a corporation that has already established a corporate history and its own independent line of credit or lines of credit, then you're all good to go. You might not have that problem. But until then, we got to manage and maintain the straw man and use him wisely. The Internal Revenue Code is an indirect excise tax on the privilege of doing business as an artificial entity, which is another corporation, or a partnership. A partnership created up under the laws of the federal, but not state government. In fact, the term income is defined by the Constitution only as the corporate profit. And this corporation, a partnership, is a form of a corporation. Income tax on the privilege of doing business as a corporation as measured by the profits of the corporation. See section 5.6.5, the Great IRS Hoax, for further more details on this subject. Corporations. Corporations are citizens, which means that we are corporations because we call ourselves citizens. Citizens of the United States under the Internal Revenue Code. The corporations are also beneficiaries of a trust. The corporations are also beneficiaries of a trust. What does that tell us? The trust document is the corporate charter that created the corporation under an act of the legislature. The trustees are the officers of the corporation. The trust document is the corporate charter. So what is the trust document? The trust document being the birth certificate. A corporation is a citizen or resident or inhabitant of the state or country by or under the laws of which it was created, and of the state or country only. 19 Corpus Juris, Legal Encyclopedia Corporation, Section 886. Under the Internal Revenue Code, a U.S. person is the only proper subject of the tax code, and that person is a corporation. That U.S. person is defined in 26 United States Constitution, Section 7701. Also 301.6109, which identifies a U.S. person as only as an it. So we are classifying ourselves as an it, as a thing, and not a he or a she, which reflects is related to the flesh and blood man or woman, right? Such a person can either be a resident alien or a citizen residing in a territory of the United States. Okay, section 301.6109 talks about identifying numbers. What is an identifying number that we all know of? Social Security number. We can have 1 million people with the same name. Is the system itself going to get confused between who's who? Does the system ever get confused between who's who? No, because it all reflects on that one number that's been assigned to you. Requirement to furnish one's own number. U.S. persons, every U.S. person who makes under this title a return statement or other document must furnish its own taxpayer identification numbers as required by the forms and the accompanying instructions. So yeah, if we're filing these documents in which we shouldn't be filing, that obligates us into the further contracting of the straw man and his Social Security number, which signs us up to make us liable for yearly taxes up under the Form 1040. When you file a Form 1040, you are basically indicating to the government under penalty of perjury that you are either a trustee or an officer of a foreign/alien corporation that resides in a federal zone. The Form 1040 says in the upper left corner that it is only submitted by U.S. individuals. It says that right in the upper left-hand corner that it's only submitted. This form is only submitted by U.S. individuals. An individual is either an alien or a non-resident alien. Up under Section 1441. Since non-resident aliens filed the Form 1040-NR, and since you didn't attach the IRS Form 2555 to your 1040, that you did file indicating that you were a U.S. citizen up under United States Constitution, Code 8, Section 1401, you are living overseas, then the only type of U.S. individual you can be is an alien, which is a resident one. This alien is living inside the federal zone and is subject to federal laws and police powers. That's a deep contract right there. You thought you were just applying for a job. This alien is living inside the federal zone and is subject to federal laws and police powers, which means the statutes and citations and shit. The W-4 form you mistakenly filled out and submitted to your employer indicated in the upper left corner that you were an employee. The term employee is defined as a public officer. It is a public officer of the United States government, which just happens to be a corporation up under the United States Constitution 3002. The federal government only has jurisdiction over foreign commerce under Article 1, Section 8, Clause 3 of the Constitution. The federal government only has jurisdiction over foreign commerce under Article 1, Section 8, Clause 3 of the Constitution. Taxation, internal to the states of the Union, is a plenary power reserved exclusively to the states of the Union upon the U.S. Constitution, Amendments 9 and 10. See Sections 5.2.3 and 5.211 of the Great IRS Hoax. Your straw man is therefore a corporation, and corporations are the only types of entities that the federal government is authorized to tax under the Constitution. Makes a lot of sense, huh? The important thing to remember is that as long as you are connected to an artificial entity such as a corporation, that is a privilege creation of Congress. And as long as you live in the federal zone, or as a citizen under United States Constitution Code 8, Section 1401, who was born in the District of Columbia or the territories and who derives foreign income from outside the United States country, then your earnings come under the jurisdiction of the federal government, and you will be treated as a taxpayer, with or without liability statute making you one. We're going to skip down. As we said in item 5 above, we can use the UCC redemption process to gift our commercial straw man to a third party. This insulates us further from any liabilities of the straw man so long as the person we gifted to agreed to accept only the benefits and privileges and none of the liabilities. So that's part of the whole concept when we utilize the UCC1 to create separation, acknowledgments of the separations between the corporation and the flesh and blood living soul man or woman. We're separating the corporation, which holds the liabilities, and we create the separation and division of the flesh and blood man or woman, which holds the benefits. Because the redemption process copyrights the straw man and all information about him, then the government can no longer use the straw man to get at the natural person. The person we gift our commercial straw man to using the UCC redemption then signs a power of attorney to allow us to act on their behalf. That's the purpose of the power of attorney. Spouses do this, for instance, for each other in states that allow only a person to gift their straw man to themselves. California is like this. We can then file with the IRS a form 2848, which is a power of attorney affidavit. This power of attorney, which gives us power of attorney of our straw man, but leaves the liability of the straw man with the straw man. We must be careful at all times not to completely abandon our straw man and keep it attached through a power of attorney to a defender of some sort. That defender doesn't share the liabilities of the straw man, but can claim the benefits and act on behalf of the straw man without actually being the straw man. Having a person who is a defender will preserve the credit rating and credibility of the straw man. If the government then tries to destroy the natural person by using our all-caps straw man name to file a lien against it, we can then simply attack the government for violation of copyright and for violation of an innocent third party, which is us, the natural person rather than the straw man. Every time we interact with the IRS, we must submit a form, IRS Form 56, entitled Notice Concerning Fiduciary Relationships, which is this form right here. This is the IRS Form 56, which can be downloaded easily by typing in Google IRS Form 66. Real short and simple form, but very powerful, beneficial to our transactions and interactions with these government officials. On this form, we basically dissolve any existing fiduciary relationships or connections with the all-cap straw man, and we remove any possibility that the IRS can incorrectly presume that we are corporations or taxpayers. This forces the IRS to treat us as a natural person and not an artificial entity. Then, when we communicate with the IRS, we must clearly identify ourselves as a natural person and not a corporation or partnership with the domicile outside of the federal zone and the outside of the federal jurisdictions. If you have a court trial which involves a straw man, then you must file a petition for identity hearing in advance of all activity of the court case, of course. The purpose of this petition is to clarify with the court that they aren't suing the natural person, but a straw man who is not you and who you are not acting as the fiduciary. When litigating, never file improper or in pro se, because this indicates that you are being represented by an attorney. Instead, we file as sui juris, which means a natural person possessing full civil rights. Sui juris is defined as follows: of his own right, possessing full social and civil rights, not under any legal disability or power of another or guardianship, however, or having capacity to manage one's own affairs, not under legal disability to act for oneself. As referenced from Black's Law Dictionary, 4th edition, page 1602. We use all the above techniques as they work quite effectively. We use the IRS Form 56 with everything we send, and we clearly identify ourselves as a natural person domiciled outside the United States. We ensure that we are identified as domiciled outside the federal United States by redefining the terms in the perjury statement to refer to United States Constitution, Section 1746, and to say that we are outside of the federal United States. We do not actually physically modify the statement because the IRS might try to mistakenly penalize us for modifying the statement, so we simply redefine the words instead. The end. Like, share, comment, subscribe, stay in tune.